Okay, so I called the Lakers to win the West, but I just got like a really bad feeling seeing Russell Westbrook in a Lakers jersey before the game. Like, this is the dude who flames out early in the playoffs. This dude doesn't work well with other superstars in the postseason. Then, sure enough, it was awful. Russ goes 4 for 13, and Mr. Triple-Double only had 5 boards and 4 assists. But you know what was worse? What LeBron told Russ after the game.
You got a beautiful wife, family, so at the end of the day, you go home and then you really like, okay, all right, it's not that bad.
Okay, all that's true, but like, imagine having to remind Russ, it's okay, man, you've got a beautiful family at home after one game. That is such a bad sign. But despite that, you can call me stupid, but I still really love the Lakers. And the reason I love the Lakers is because of something Anthony Davis actually reminded me of. AD trying to figure it out with LeBron. The Lakers are not yet a juggernaut. Yeah, people freaked out after AD lost his first game as a Laker. The Clippers beat him opening night 2019, but the Lakers ended up winning the title. Now, of course, fitting in Russ is different than fitting in AD. They're totally different players. What I'm saying is, everyone needs to settle down after one loss. The real problem was not Russell Westbrook. It was Frank Vogel. Why did Anthony Davis play like no center against the Dubs? I thought that was the whole point of the season, right? What was all that talk in training camp? You can only trade for Russ if AD is gonna play center. Russ can't shoot, so you don't want to play him with Dwight Howard or DeAndre Jordan. The Rockets realized that when they had Russell Westbrook, so they traded all their centers. They had PJ Tucker playing center. But instead, Vogel played Russ with those guys all the time. Another guy you cannot play Russ with is Rajon Rondo. They're both point guards. So, when Rondo is on the court, one of them will have to be a shooting guard who can't shoot. That's like a mailman who can't deliver mail.
How am I gonna get this in here? You got my glove. Give me my glove back.
Okay, and what really confuses me is that Frank Vogel is a smart guy. Okay, he knows all this stuff. We heard all about AD playing center in training camp because he gets it, right? So why did he play Russ with like DeAndre Jordan? The only reason could be that the Lakers don't want to show all their cards yet. They want to save stuff for the playoffs. That is so stupid. You're not going to make the playoffs if you go that way. I think we are going to see really smart lineups right away after this embarrassing loss, and the Lakers are going to look a lot better immediately. But the one thing that will be really tough to fix has to do with LeBron. Frank Vogel might have to play LeBron and Russ totally separately all the time. Both guys are used to playing with the ball in their hands, and I don't think that Russ is going to be happy with many more triple singles. And the one thing the Lakers have said over and over is, we want Russ to be Russ. Okay, well, the only way for that to happen is if Russ is running the offense by himself. And that's obviously going to be with the second unit. The perfect scenario here would be Russ coming off the bench, yeah, I said it, and playing 100% of the minutes that LeBron James sits. Because then the Lakers would have like two super teams, a LeBron James run team and a Russell Westbrook run team. That would be like a full game of superstar dominance. But is Russ actually going to accept that? Remember when Carmelo Anthony basically refused to come off the bench for Houston? He thought he was too good for that. So he didn't have a job for like a year until he humbled himself and took a lesser role on the Blazers. Well, there's no way Russ sees himself as a bench player at this point in his career, because he's not. Russ is a really good regular season player with a low ceiling in the playoffs. But that's not what the Lakers signed up for this year, right? So here we are. Russ on the Lakers with championship expectations. I think Russ got himself traded to a team where he's got to be the third best player. He's going to have to accept that role, or this is not going to work. This actually reminds me of every other third banana on the LeBron James team. First it was Chris Bosh, then it was Kevin Love, and it was really hard for both of those guys at first. Like back when LeBron LeBron went to Cleveland, I remember Chris Bosh had some advice for Kevin Love, and it could easily be advice for Russell Westbrook. He said, quote, "Yeah, it's going to be a lot more difficult taking a step back because you're used to doing something a certain way and getting looks a certain way. Then it's like, oh, well, no, for the benefit of the team, you have to get it here." It's going to be very difficult for him. Even if I was in his corner and I was able to tell him what to expect and what to do, it still doesn't make any difference. You still have to go through things. You still have to figure out things on your own. It is extremely difficult and extremely frustrating. He's going to have to deal with that. Seriously, it was like Chris Bosh going from the man on the Raptors to the third banana on the Heat, or Kevin Love being the man in Minnesota to being the third best player on the Cavaliers. That is tough. Just look at game one. LeBron got his 34 points, 11 boards. AD got his 33 points, 11 boards. Russ, triple single. He's going to have to humble himself to fit in. Just like Chris Bosh said, it's going to be tough. And honestly, judging by Russ's attitude after the game, he seemed sad. I think he's starting to see how tough this next year is going to be. We are all about to just sit back and watch the show because the next few months are going to be a huge reality check for Russell Westbrook. However, saying all that, I still believe in the Lakers because if there's anyone who can make this work, it is LeBron James. Even though Bosh and Love didn't like adapting, everything worked out. I'm not saying Russ has the same personality as those two guys because I feel like Russ is more of an alpha male than Bosh and Love, but maybe he's been humbled by how awful his career has been lately. The Lakers are his fourth team in 4 years. That doesn't happen to the best players in the league. Maybe Russ will see he is not a number 1 or a number 2 anymore. He is a number 3. He'll accept that role in the Lakers. And I'm also really excited for when they get healthy. I mean, this team is missing both Trevor Ariza and Talen Horton-Tucker, which is a huge issue for 2 reasons. Number 1, shooting. This team needs all the shooting they can get, especially with Russell Westbrook on the floor. Number 2 is defense. Not only are they without Alex Caruso anymore, who is legit on D, but they fell apart late against the Warriors. They allowed 38 points to the fourth quarter. And this is a team that was number 1 on defense last year, even without LeBron for a long time. Ariza is not good on defense anymore, but he's not as bad as Westbrook or Rondo. THT might be their best defender outside of Anthony Davis. I still have a ton of faith that the Lakers will figure this out. They are fitting in a huge piece to their roster when most other teams, the Warriors, are just fitting in role players. LA is naturally going to take more time to figure things out, but once they do, they will be lethal. The only issue really, Russell Westbrook accepting that third star role. That's been really tough for LeBron's teammates in the past, but Russ doesn't really have any other choice. If he doesn't accept it and becomes a problem, you know LeBron will trade Russ before the deadline. That would qualify as an absolute disaster, but I don't see that happening. Okay, Frank Vogel is going to get his rotation set. Russ will humble himself. The Lakers will get healthy, and they'll be a basketball machine by the time the playoffs come. Russ will not get traded before the deadline. Please do not go off about that in the comments. But I still thought it would be fun to have a whole video looking at what if everything goes completely wrong for a bunch of teams, including the Brooklyn Nets. That's what this video is all about.